Welcome back. Close your eyes for a second. Imagine retirement. What do you see? Maybe you see a white sandy beach in Florida. Maybe you see a golf course in Arizona. You see yourself with gray hair, a tan, holding a margarita, laughing about how you never have to set an alarm clock again. You worked hard for 40 years. You paid your dues. And now you get to enjoy the golden years. Now open your eyes. I want you to look at the person bagging your groceries at the supermarket. Look at the person greeting you at Walmart. Look at the Uber driver who is 75 years old and squinting at the GPS. They aren't on a golf course. They are on their feet for 8 hours a day because Social Security doesn't cover the rent. We have been sold a fantasy. The idea that you can stop working at 65 and live comfortably until 90 is a relatively new experiment in human history. And I have bad news. The experiment has failed. We are staring down the barrel of a retirement crisis that makes the 2008 crash look like a minor stumble. Millions of baby boomers, the richest generation in history, are hitting retirement age with absolutely no money. Zero. And for millennials and Gen Z, the picture is even bleaker. Today, we are going to expose how the pension was stolen and replaced with a gambling chip called the 401k. We will look at the terrifying math of the silver tsunami and why the future of retirement isn't a beach house. It's a shift at the Amazon warehouse. To understand why grandma's broke, we have to go back to 1980. Back then, the American deal was simple. You worked for General Motors or GE for 30 years. You showed up, you did your job, and in return, the company promised to pay you a monthly check until you died. This was called a defined benefit plan, a pension. The risk was on the company. If the stock market crashed, GE still had to pay you. If you lived to be 100, GE still had to pay you. But corporations hated this. It was expensive. It was a liability on their balance sheet. So they found a loophole, a tax code provision called 401k. It was never designed to be a full pension replacement. It was supposed to be a nice little bonus supplement for executives, but corporate America saw an opportunity. They said, hey, why don't we cancel the pensions and just give the employees a 401k? We will tell them it's empowerment. We will tell them they can be their own investors. It was the greatest marketing trick of the 20th century. They shifted the risk from the company to you. Now, if the stock market crashes right before you retire, that's your problem. If you don't save enough because wages are stagnant, that's your problem. If you live too long and run out of money, good luck. They handed the financial keys to millions of ordinary people who are not professional investors and said, figure it out. And guess what? We didn't figure it out. Let's look at the scorecard. How is the 401k experiment going after 40 years? It is a disaster. Financial advisors generally say you need about $1 million to retire comfortably. If you use the 4% rule, you withdraw 4% a year, that gives you $40,000 a year to live on. Not rich, but doable. So, how much does the average American actually have? According to the Federal Reserve, the median retirement savings for Americans aged 55 to 64 is, wait for it, $185,000 Title Wilders. That generates about $7,000 a year in income. That is $600 a month. You can't even rent a parking space for that in some cities. But that's only for the people who have savings. A huge percentage of Americans have unregistered or Wallard. Nothing. They are relying 100% on Social Security. And what does Social Security pay? The average check is about $1,700 a month. Can you live on $1,700 a month in 2026? After you pay for Medicare Part B, rent, food, and heating, the math is impossible. This is why we see the rise of the unretiree. People retire, have a party, and then 6 months later, they realize the math doesn't work. So they go back to work. But they don't go back to their high-paying executive jobs. Those jobs are gone. They go back to low-wage service jobs. We are creating a permanent underclass of elderly workers who are too old to work but too poor to stop. But wait, it gets worse. Even if you manage to save $500,000, even if you did everything right, there is one vampire waiting in the shadows to drain your account dry: healthcare. Americans are living longer, but we are living sicker. Medicare covers a lot, but it doesn't cover everything. It doesn't cover long-term care. It doesn't cover nursing homes. Do you know how much a nursing home costs? The average private room in a nursing home costs over $9,000 a month. That is over $100,000 a year. If you get dementia or need 24-hour care, your entire life savings, the money you scraped together for 40 years, can be wiped out in 18 months. This is the systemic tragedy of the American middle class. You work your whole life to build an inheritance for your kids, and in the end, the healthcare system takes it all. The only way to get the government to pay for your nursing home, Medicaid, is to be destitute. So the system actually forces you to spend all your money until you're broke just to get help. But surely, you say, the government will fix this. We pay into Social Security. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Social Security is essentially a legal Ponzi scheme. It works as long as there are more young people paying in than old people taking out. In 1950, there were 16 workers for every one retiree. The math was easy. The pile of money was huge. Today, there are roughly 2.8 workers for every retiree. By 2035, it will be closer to 2 workers. The trust fund that pays the benefits is scheduled to run out of money in the early 2030s. Does that mean checks stop? No. But it means an automatic benefit cut of roughly 20 to 25% unless Congress acts. Imagine telling a 75-year-old living on $1,700 a month that they are getting a 20% pay cut. It is a death sentence. And politically, this is a nightmare. The boomers are a massive voting bloc. They will demand their money. But the zoomers, Gen Z, are broke. They can't afford higher taxes to pay for Grandpa S retirement when they can't even buy a house. We are setting the stage for a generational war. The old want their promised benefits. The young want a future. Both are fighting over a shrinking pie. So what happens when the money runs out? The burden falls on the family. Enter the sandwich generation. These are people in their 40s and 50s who are sandwiched between 2 crises. On one side, they are supporting their adult children who can't afford rent. On the other side, they are supporting their aging parents who have no savings. This destroys the ability of the middle-aged generation to save for their own unsought retirement. They are draining their 401ks to pay for mom's assisted living. It is a cycle of poverty. The parents couldn't save, so the kids spend their savings on the parents, so the kids can't save. And then their kids will have to support them. The wealth transfer isn't going down, inheritance. It's going up, caregiving costs. So is there any good news? Well, only if you redefine good. The good news is that we are realizing the truth. The experiment failed. The era of the 30-year vacation at the end of life is over. It was a historical anomaly that existed for one lucky generation, and now it is gone. For those of us under 50, the strategy has to change. We cannot rely on the government. We cannot rely on a company. We have to accept that we might work until we are 70 or 75. We need to invest aggressively, not because we want a yacht, but because we need to buy our own freedom. We need to stop looking at retirement as an age. I'm not doing 65. It is not an age. It is a financial number. If you hit that number at 40, you are retired. If you hit it at 80, you are retired. If you never hit it, you never retire. This sounds harsh. It is harsh. But the alternative is burying your head in the sand until you are 64, opening your statement and realizing you have enough money to last until next Tuesday. So look at your 401k. Look at your spending. Because the person greeting you at Walmart isn't just a random stranger. If you aren't careful, that person is the ghost of Christmas future. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments. Do you think Social Security will exist when you retire? And what is your plan? Save $1 million or work until you drop? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more uplifting economic horror stories. See you in the next one.